Welcome to the Repackaging Revolution, where we interview and learn from packaging professionals throughout North America and beyond. Our focus has always been towards promoting and encouraging the packaging profession, along with those who make it special. Today's show, and the name of today's show, is Packaging Perspectives from a Packaging Pro. Today's guest is the founder and president of MDM Packaging and Supplies, along with the owner of Swefco Packaging, both based in California, one in Fontana and the other in Colton. You cannot be in this business as long as he's been without knowing a thing or two about packaging sales, marketing, and all the things in between. Mark Mendoza, welcome to the show.
It is one of the best businesses in the world. Packaging is fun. It can be very lucrative, but it requires a ton of work. And if you're willing to put the work in early, you can reap the rewards for the rest of your lifetime, but it doesn't happen by accident.
Well, like I mentioned to you when we were prepping for this show, I had said that a lot of times I just love to go off of other people's insights. And you really nailed that too. And I'd love to kind of get your take. I don't understand why packaging isn't more I would say seductive for the younger people. But you know, it's not. This isn't, there's nothing, I tell people, there's nothing incredibly sexy about packaging, but like you said, it's fun. It's very needed. If you don't do it properly, and we've all seen those companies that think of it at the last minute, and the next thing you know, their brand is either underwater or that business never took off. And I just would love your take on, maybe it's me, but I'm not seeing a ton of people that are, unless you go to the Michigan States or the Clemsons with that packaging engineering background, but packaging sales, we should be overrun with good quality reps.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not sure what it is, the generational thing that, call it the fast food mentality. Some of the younger people, and they want to be influencers because those guys, the one in the million that can make it huge. But this is good old fashioned hard work that pays dividends. And the farther we get into this technology, the harder it is to get to the decision makers like you're talking about. But if you put the effort in, sooner or later, you will find someone that will want to talk to you. And it goes back, the harder you work, the luckier you are. And I firmly believe it has to be, you have to be driven to work hard, sell out, do whatever it takes at the beginning, and be willing to do it for 5 years or whatever that number of years is. And then just don't put it on coast, but you can slack up a little bit, maybe play golf on a Friday occasionally. But in the beginning, work your ass off and it pays off.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? And those are the fundamentals that I put this podcast together, Mark, when you and I connected. This is the very reason, or one of the very reasons why I like to share this, because it's inspiring for young people to understand that, like I said, there's nothing incredibly sexy about this, but it's nuts and bolts. It's blocking and tackling, to use that sports additive and metaphor. And we can really and truly get people, like you said, one in a million, if they literally took the time to really explore this, could make a huge amount of money in this space. It's, it's unbelievable.
I guarantee you the top packaging sales reps in the industry rival any lawyer or doctor's income.
I agree.
So it's just a matter, you still need to work hard. It's just a different avenue. And the one thing that's great about packaging is you're building relationships. Well, how great is it if you're on vacation and you get a huge order when you're on vacation because it's just a repeat? It's awesome.
Let me ask. I 100% get it, and it never fails. When that happens, it just makes that vacation seem that much better. I mean, it's like, wow, this is unbelievable. Tell me a little bit about. You said your dad was in this space, and I won't go so far back, but were you inspired by what he was doing? Were you on his coattails to learn this? Because sales and sales packaging is a little bit different. It's not, again, it's getting in the door and finding the right people. But tell me anything that you maybe have gotten from your dad that inspired you in this world.
Well, certainly I rode his coattails into getting into the company because, he was very social, and I got to know a lot of his friends that were mostly, of course, colleagues that worked with him. So I was fortunate enough to get in the door there with his help, and he certainly helped me the best he could. But, at the end of the day, it was all about doing it yourself. I when I first started, I would be the first person in the office. I would get there at 6:15, and I would leave at 5.
Yep.
And it was an office with 200 people, so it wasn't
Right.
like I was one of two people. So
Exactly.
it goes back. So yes, my dad supported me immensely all the way along the process, but
Yep.
at some point you got to take your own reins and rely on the people that can help you. And one of the things that I learned is look at the successful people. Don't ever try to be that person, but
Right.
take what they do well and incorporate it to what you are. And then use
Yes.
these tools. And it's okay to steal ideas from other people and and
100%.
then just do it as your own personality.
Yeah, 100%. And there was a reason why I asked that, because that's very similar in my world, and the fact that, there's so much we can learn from old school, and especially now in this day and age that we're living in right now, it seems like we're kind of coming full circle. It's like we talked about earlier, and just plain Jane customer service, knowing your customers, like you mentioned before, like your dad did, and being able to kind of really piece together solutions for people. And that's another thing I really wanted to kind of, I guess you could say, poke a little bit, because in our world, and like I try to share with our reps, finding that opportunity oftentimes is solving a pain point. And pain point, yes, is people will throw in the price is important. I get it. Price is going to, but usually, finding the reps that understand to get beyond the commodity sale, get beyond just making a couple of shekels, and getting into really becoming that partner. Because to bring this full circle, you're not in business since '89 without forming partnerships, whether you like it or not. You've got partnerships, I bet you, from those early days that you're still connected with. And that's where this thing, speaking of young people, this is where this becomes that annuity over and over and over again. Can you speak to a little bit about, the pain points, and is that something you focus on with your folks too?
Well, absolutely. And like you say, growing partnerships is huge. Not only partnerships with the customers, which is obviously the vital and the lifeblood of your
Right.
company, but as the
Right.
suppliers too. Because as a
Right.
distributor, in a lot of ways, we are only as good as our vendors.
Yep.
And we are about 50-50 out of stock deliveries and 50% drop ship. So the stuff we have on the floor, we have a lot more control. But at 50% drop ship, we need our vendors. So if they're not good, then there are pain points there. So it's key to partner up with the right things. And like I said, we mentioned the customers, but another thing that's super important. This is more to someone that might be looking to do it as getting in their own business. Pay your vendors. We haven't
Yeah.
missed a discount since 1990. Our
I
vendors
hear
love
you.
us. We get
Yeah.
all kinds of favors, and we don't ask for them when we need it, but when we need them, we always get them. It's you got to take care of both sides.
Well, that really brings up a really good point too, and I think there's a missed opportunity, and I'd love your take on this too, especially because you get it, and that's something that I've understood. We're only as good as our suppliers. And if we can work with our suppliers, and let's face it, when we get into this business, at least I remember it being, if I was selling resin or whatever it is, GE or some of these other big boys, they had 30 reps out there tripping over everybody. Well, they're all gone now. And the point is that so many of these suppliers are running short staffed to begin with. And the more we can get to know the suppliers and partner with them, they look to us as a conduit for their sales team. And they go, hey, Bob, by the way, just heard that this company just closed and there's an opportunity down this guy down the street. And like you said, paying your bills, being considerate. I mean, those kind of things, that pays such huge dividends. I'd love your take on that.
Well, it does. Like I say, quite honestly, doing the right thing is the key to everything.
I
Don't
know.
cut corners. Don't try to make an extra 5% if you can one time because the customer's not looking. Just treat people right. If you treat people fairly, and everybody knows you got to make a profit. So obviously, margins are driven up and down sometimes by how competitive the piece of business is. But you got to make a fair profit, and you got to treat your customers fairly, and basically do what you say. And if you don't, and mistakes happen. And the worst thing to do is when something bad happens is hide. I don't think there's a
Yes.
new rep out in the world that hasn't hidden from a mistake once. I certainly did it when I was first starting.
Of
Now I'm the
course.
exact opposite. As soon
Yeah.
as I something, I address it immediately. If no other
Yep.
reason, it's off my shoulders. And
Yeah.
even though they may not be happy with my answer, at least they have an answer and they're willing to accept it or not, but at least they know.
Right. And I found that human factor too of saying, look, Sally, we messed up, or this order didn't go through like we thought it was. I'm the chief cook and bottle washer like you are. This is my responsibility. I'm not going to blame the rep. I'm not going to blame the supplier. This is my responsibility. I'm going to handle it and I'm going to go with it. And we're going to make it right. I think people then at that particular point not only look to us in a different light, in a good way, going like, wow, hold on one second. They're used to, and that's where we were saying before about the mediocrity that we tend to accept here. I can't tell you how many times, and I know you've gone through this as well, where there's a supplier that just will ship short. They're not going to figure that out. You know what? They ordered 100,000. They're going to get about 89. By the time they figure it out, we can. I'm like, who does that? I mean, I just see this in some of the craziest. I mean, some of these are very, very big companies. I'm like, how is that okay? It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I think the bigger the company is, the less control one single person has. So if you have a huge amount of employees, you're gonna have some people that just don't care, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that falls to the crack. We got like 60 employees, so we're not small, but we're not huge either. But I try to keep my finger on everything important, and I get involved as needed. Obviously, I can't do everything day to day like I used to, but my biggest thing I want to hire someone is the most important thing to me is you care. If you
Yeah.
care, then
Right.
that will take care of everything else. I'm not
Correct.
expecting anyone to be perfect because I make mistakes. I know you're going to make mistakes, but care,
Yeah.
be honest to the customers, get back to them, and the rest will work out. I've always said it's way more important how you handle mistakes than you do when life is good. If
Yeah.
you handle a problem and get back to the customer and apologize and do everything you're possible to make it go as quick as possible, you build a stronger bond.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I've seen this happen too, and I'm curious what it's like on the West Coast, where there's a lot of traditional packaging companies that have been purchased and the purchased by the private equity world and the big money. And they say all the right things, Mark, when they take over that company. This just happened here in Cleveland, with the automated packaging, and automated bought out by, I guess, Sealed Air or something. And now where they used to sell, automated packaging used to sell not only the equipment for these form, fill, and seal machines, but also the film. And now the film doesn't work on the machines, and the private equity is like, I'm sorry. And I've got more people calling going, what am I supposed to do? And automated's not even taking my call. I go through like push 9 for push.
Yeah.
You need support. It drives me crazy. It's such an opportunity for guys like us.
I agree, and it's the same on the West Coast. There's been a lot of buyouts of mid-sized packaging
Yep.
accounts by some of the bigger guys, and I don't blame them. That's a great way to grow, but you lose the guy that built the business. And I personally will never sell because both my kids work here, and I got grandkids now. So maybe someday that they'll continue. I've got a customer that's literally has fifth generation people working there now, and
Nice.
when I see that, I go, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Whether it happens with my company or not, I'll be long gone
Right.
by the time that happens, but that's my goal.
Tell me first, because I want to go into a little bit about your kids. You've got a son and daughter in the space, but before we get there, tell us about the reach. Are you mainly West Coast? Are you national? I mean, give me an idea of kind of how the MDM platform or footprint works.
Okay. Well, we have a single location in Colton, California, which is about 40 to 50 miles east of LA. So, which is LA's huge. So there's tons out here. So
right.
we go two ways. We make same day deliveries every day. We don't want to, but that's a part of the service that we do to our customers.
Good for you.
So the closer our customers are to our hub, the better chance we have to give that great service. But that being said, I've been fortunate enough to be in the beverage industry for 30 years now. And this is another thing, don't miss an opportunity. I got my first entree into the beverage company with one of my neighbors who walked his dogs. And he was working as a consultant for a big juice company at the time.
Yep.
He got me in there and I sold them for a while. They were bought by PepsiCo, so I lost the business a year after that. But since then, I probably have 200 to 300 beverage customers. And because of that, they changed co-packers or they moved.
Yeah.
So I think we're literally shipping into at least 25 states now. That's all corrugated because we do a ton of corrugated in other states.
Yeah. I was gonna ask because the beverage world I know, because in my space I remember seeing at least here, and I know it's like this in LA or that area, where the craft brewers have just exploded all over the place. And it wasn't a year or so ago that Ball said, "Hey, you know what? We're not making your cans anymore unless you 10 times your order."
Right.
And suddenly all these people were scrambling and they wanted to get out of that. I mean, how do you handle that? And wait a minute, I can't get my cans. And now so that just became this crazy
Yeah.
mess that they had to go through.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and that's changed. And we do a little bit. My son's got a few beer customers, craft beers, and some are good sized companies. And that's evolving quickly. They're
Yeah.
co-packing for more. Even
Yep.
the big guys will sometimes co-pack some of their stuff elsewhere, and it's constantly changing. Maybe I don't know about the bottle part. Maybe that's part of the reasons. And I do stuff with 100 ml cans for alcohol, and
Yep.
one of my big customers is having a hell of a time getting cans right now. So,
Wow.
and it's very interesting. Things are changing for sure.
Well, they are, and that's interesting you mentioned that because I talked to another guy in this space too, and the one thing that he was mentioning was, overseas in the printed cans in the UK, Australia, and some of these other places, they don't have that issue. Meaning they'll run 50,000 of a SKU. They won't, and they will understand. And I don't know much about that space. I don't know much about how that beverage works. Where I believe if you take a blank can and fill it, then you have to put a sleeve over that can. Versus what they really want is that printed can. If I'm correct, but
Well, yeah,
um, you know,
it's a mix. Like I said, we don't sell the cans, but I've been involved.
no,
But
I just was curious.
well, the cans are generally decorated when they're filled.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're printed, but a lot of times, especially on the smaller quantities, are sleeves, shrink sleeves.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
shrink sleeve, and that's done in the plant too. So it's all part of the filling process. I think the sleeves go on first before it's filled, and then the
yeah.
cans are closed. But
So do you guys do any? I mean, I understand we talked about the corrugated on the front end here, but do you do filling or any sort of co-packing at your place?
we do no co-packing.
Okay,
The
got it.
Stuff is a
Yeah.
foam fabricator, so we do manufacturing in house, but it's just strictly foam.
Yeah. Boy, I cut my teeth way back when in that whole foam world too. I mean, my whole business was the heavy automotive, the dirty, greasy, grimy guy out there with International Truck and Johnson Controls and fabricated foam and it's just so interesting because fabricated foam still has that place in the electronic space and the appliance space. There's just, I know there's different types of foam, but I just find it fascinating that industry really hasn't changed, but it's still very viable.
Still very viable, but the things that have changed though is like we used to do a ton of laptops end caps. Well,
I
most of that's
remember.
gone over to China now, and
Yeah.
also if you look at the size, the phone that I'm talking to you on right now is more power than my computer, probably 100 times that I first computer I bought.
Exactly.
So the electronics have gotten smaller, so you don't need quite as much foam to ship or foam at all to
Right.
ship. But it's
Right.
other areas, and their electronics certainly part of them that will always need foam. So it's still a very good business. And with on that side, the Swelco side, we focus working with distributors because the same reason you said that, like the
Yeah.
big company has gone away,
Yeah.
we don't have the sales force out there, so we're calling on the distributors and
Right.
working with them. And that's how we see our path to growth on the foam side.
I just remember back then, one of my larger clients was Craft Made Cabinetry, and Craft Made was this one of what really kind of caught, and they're since been purchased by Masco and one of these other conglomerates. But one of the big things that they were dealing with was right when Home Depot was making its way up the East Coast. Of course, they started in Atlanta, and I remember they put in one of the first computer terminals at a Home Depot where the homemaker could go in and design her own kitchen cabinets and see what it looks like on a computer screen. And suddenly they just blew up, and they needed to move. And again, they were a literally a semi-automatic cabinet company maker, but you're dealing with wood and you're moving wood. Wood is very brittle. Wood gets scratched easily. That's where that foam kind of came in, and that's where the foam laminated to plastic corrugated, and being able to do this. And I mean, and it's just fascinating. You got me thinking back in those days. I mean, that's how they survived. It was crazy.
Yeah, exactly. You just got to keep your eyes open because you wouldn't think that necessarily someone like that would be a good phone customer, but they're out there and
Right.
they're surprising. that even though their main items may not need foam, but they might have some of their smaller items that may be big someday that require foam. And sometimes, if it's a heavy piece of equipment, they're very expensive foam sets to ship their product. So it's still a very good business.
So help us understand a little bit too, especially in your world, finding, I know because you've got the reputation, you've been around for a while and you've got you've got several different, but are you looking for more opportunities? Are you ever, a lot of clients now, because distributors have really sort of, I mean, again, we can always call on the U lines of the world, but a lot of companies are now relying on their main suppliers like an MDM and say, hey, can you help us get into this autoclave packaging for medical instruments, or could you help us? Are you seeing your partnerships kind of looking to you guys for those other opportunities?
Well, absolutely. Our main suppliers are always looking towards us to grow, and farther, we've refocused a little bit in the last couple of years where we've added more reps,
Yeah,
and so we've got we have 4 people that's all they're doing out there is banging doors, sending emails, trying to recruit new
right,
customers, and they're
right.
going through the torch ride. That is the beginning of it that will lead hopefully to the big pot of gold down the road. So we're very active there. But we're updating our website right now. It's decent, but we're going to update it, try to get higher on the search engine because the younger the people are, the more likely they're going to look for you on the internet, so that's changing. And so we're trying to get proactive on many levels. And I personally, my personal business, I've been so fortunate with just the referrals. In fact, I got another nice referral this morning. So I'm very fortunate that I'm in a position that I've been doing. I'm an old guy. And hopefully, this means I do the right things, that I've been able to get
Yeah.
referrals. And it's rarely a week goes by where I don't get at least one referral. So I've been extremely lucky.
Yeah, and that really, talk about a feather in your cap. Talk about a real pat on our back is when we get a referral. Hey, I just want you to know, so and so is going to give you a buzz. I told him to give you a call, and I just see it here as well, where a lot of companies, if we've done our job right. This just happened where a division of GE, ironically, is a place called Momentive, and they do a lot of ceramic, real heavy ceramic in the electronic space. And for whatever reason, they need very high end ESD packaging, like total clean room. Now, that's not getting, no one's going to retire from that space. No one's going to, it's not like, but there are so few companies in the US that make that, if they even do. And there's so few people, like, for example, they really wanted about 10,000 bags. But what it made interesting, and I know you can relate to this, they wanted them packaged in 100 or 1,000 in a pack. And then they wanted those 1,000 packs packed in 100 per pack. And I don't know why, but whatever. But getting anybody to do value add like that is like unheard of. Companies like Uline's going, I'm not going to do that. What are you talking about? You take it and give it to a handicap workshop. But I
Exactly.
see that as such a huge opportunity for some of these companies. They'll nickel and dime us, Mark, but yet they'll throw money at us if we can value add something for them to really make their life easier. It's crazy.
No, I totally agree. That's nice with the flexibility of having the SWEFCO side because we do have production people. So if it makes sense, I'll do it. And that's the bottom
Nice.
line. When one of my reps bring me something and say, "Will we do this?" Well, then I just ask for more details. And then if it makes sense, we'll do the weird stuff because it is value added. That's how you lock in a customer for a long time. And we may not, we get something that we didn't quote properly because we underestimated the time. So it's a give and take. Sometimes you got to go
Right.
back to the customer and say, "Hey, I'll finish this job, but a repeat, I'm gonna have to change it because we had no idea what we were doing, and we never
Yeah.
quoted it." So it's a
Yeah.
battle of give and take. But to me, if it makes sense, it makes sense.
I hope you like this content. If you want more of it, I put together a specialized packaging alliance, a group of packaging professionals that are in different facets of this industry. We have webinars, we have meetings. The idea is to share information about this great industry of packaging, whether that be from the sales side of things to the marketing, even to the end users. My point with this is I'd love to have you join us, the Specialized Packaging Alliance. Check out the link below to learn more. Thanks. And I want to make sure that we touch base because Kyle and Marcy are now involved in the business. Let's take us through this because having kids in the business, I don't have that. Neither of my kids want anything to do with my space. It's fine, whatever. I've got a mechanical engineer and I've got a social worker. So, but tell me how that evolved. Were they always interested in this space? Did they just sort of like want to hang out with dad? Give me a little bit of background on that.
That's a good question, and I'm not sure totally is. It might have been, the path of least resistance because they saw that I enjoyed what I was doing. My son's taken over the sales manager position now with these new reps, so he's fully engaged. My daughter's also a salesperson. I think they went out there. My son was in real estate for a while, and he was doing pretty well, but he realized that that's a 7-day job. People call you any 24/7. They don't care, and
No
he saw
kidding.
that that this is a better for him and a family down the road, which he now has
Yeah.
kids.
Yep.
So that's worked out for him. My daughter too. She's sales is very lucrative. They're both doing well, and they have flexibility. They both have families. So when they're on straight commission, I always encourage reps to work obviously as hard as you can, but I also say I'm not going to micromanage you when you're on straight commission.
Yeah.
If I'm paying you a salary, it's completely different. Then you're required
Yeah.
to work 40 hours minimum.
Right. Right. And that's it's just, are you, let me ask you a question, because I know this is going on in the Midwest. Are you having problem getting good people? The one thing that we're finding here in, at least in Cleveland area, I've had lots of people say, man, we can't find somebody that wants to work a full 40 hours. We've got people that can't pass a drug test. We've got people that want 35 bucks an hour for a $10 an hour job. Is that the same on the West Coast? Because it's nuts here.
No, I think it is over on the West Coast, but I've been very fortunate. The people in the plant, we've got several family members on the plant. We've been lucky when we
Nice.
need people in the plant that so they seem to know a family member or a friend that needs a job. So we're able to grow out there because that would be hard to find the plant workers. And as far as the office and salespeople, we've been fortunate.
Yeah.
We interview and we hope for the best. And I think we have a great place to work. And they realize that this is a fun place to work, but you got to work.
Yeah.
So, and eh,
Well, the proof's in the pudding, Mark. Let's face it. I mean, you can fake it for only so long, because
yeah.
it all kind of comes down to, and we've all had those kind of, I'm going to bring my book of business. Okay. It's how long is that going to take for that book of business to begin to blossom? I mean,
Right.
okay. So it's just so interesting how over time. But I want to go back to something you had mentioned, and I think that's really important too, especially in the world we live in, where you're talking about updating your website and changing. It's sort of like actively looking for new customers. I mean, I do this podcast. I like to engage with people in the space because I don't think there's a lot of people talking about packaging, talking about the career of packaging, talk about the ins and outs of packaging. Here, you dropped a couple of nuggets about just be honest. Just when there's a problem, say it. Not that you're, but what's when you guys are actively looking? I know the website and the website is critical. Is it a lot of knocking on doors and the email marketing? I mean, is that something kind of that is paying dividends, if you will?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I encourage you guys to still do the old fashioned door knocking,
Knock
but
on
but
doors.
but honestly, if you get in 1 out of 100 customers when you knock on them, you're lucky. It's just people are not
Yeah.
going to see you, so it's basically collecting information, and and then it's a matter of emails, and we're really pushing our guys as they send emails out. You know, it's one thing to send a nicely worded email that says a little about the company, and that's it. That's boring. People, a lot of people out there are busy, or they just don't want to hassle
Yeah.
changing or talking to new people.
Yeah.
So put something in there that separates you. Put a
Like
silly
like a
emoji. Make fun of
yeah,
yourself.
like a
This is
video,
my
anything.
ninth time that I've emailed you. Obviously, if I work this hard, you didn't get a quote. Think how hard I'll work because I get the business.
Yeah, exactly.
Personality.
Yeah.
Show something that's different. And,
Yeah.
and that's what we're pushing our guys to do, and our sales lady too, is be different, be memorable, and hopefully I'll lead to opportunities. And if we get opportunities, we're not Uline, we're not everything to everybody, but what we are good at, we're very good at, and it's just a
Yeah.
matter of finding the right customers for what we're good at, and we'll take good care of them.
Yeah, and it's so interesting too. You had mentioned something at the very beginning, and I really want to get into this too. Finding the decision maker, and that's so convoluted is the best way to put it, not to use the foam analogy, but it's so convoluted because we've got companies that the decision maker isn't the CEO level. He's not that, but you got to get beyond the gatekeeper, the person who calls themselves the buyer. And that just drives me crazy because I mean, the buyer is really, at least here in the Midwest, they're clerks. They're not, when you ask Sally or Sam or Bob, okay, are you ready to order? Well, I got to go talk to the boss. Like, well, you were the boss yesterday. You know what I mean? Do you find that hard to kind of, and how do you train your folks to kind of penetrate through there? It's not easy.
No, it's not easy, and that's the same out here. It's really hard to get the right person. And one of my really successful sales reps started doing this, like 20 years ago, and he's done extremely well. I think this is part of the reason. If he gets in a meeting with a customer, he'll ask him on the very first time he's talking to him, and he's very likable, so he's not like super aggressive. But if I can come in here and save you some money, will you give me an order? He hasn't even quoted yet, but he's asking for an order. So if they, almost always they'll say, "Well, yeah, we're here to save money," or skim something positive. So then if he quotes back and the guy says, "Yeah, you're good," then hey, you said you'd give me an order. I mean, sometimes they're just going to give their existing vendor a last look, and there's nothing you can do about that. But you have to call people on the table. If they say something, and it's not always going to work, but it's okay to be nicely aggressive.
Yeah, that's that's a Sandler sales technique too. That upfront contract, which I think is an old school, very very solid approach, because it's just sort of like getting them to kind of at least give us some sort of well, why am I here then? Or tell me who else is in. Another thing with this is, who else is involved with this decision, Mark, when we decide to go forward, or when are you looking to launch this? Is that, and I can't, and I know you've gone through this too. This drives me crazy too, where people will reach out to us, give us all the specs, all the details, and then you ask, well, when are you looking? Oh, not till 2025. Like, what? Wait, no, wait a minute. Call me then. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But so much of this stuff is about having that rapport, like you mentioned, your rep, being able to kind of have a, what did you say that? Aggressive, gently aggressive, nicely aggressive. Yeah. That's well put. Because again, like you said, they'll walk on you if they just think you're just just give me a price. Because I'm just going to give that price to my current supplier, and he's going to match it. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Of course, if that's the case, you'll never get any business. You got to give a reason beyond that, and you have to be like, again, separating with something. And people, and I tell my new reps too. People love underdogs. Who likes the New England Patriots except the New England Patriots fans?
I know.
Everybody's roots against them because they win every time. They're the best, probably ever was. So you're the little guy. Sell that. Yeah. I'm just starting out. I could really use some help. Use every tool you have in your bag, and being new is a tool. Just don't lie to anybody, and don't give an answer you don't know. Just the answer is, I don't know, but I will get back to you. I don't know,
but I will get back to you. Exactly. Let me ask you, as we sort of land this plane, if you will, but where are you seeing, is there, and again, you don't get to be in business for as long as MDM without being kind of having your finger on the pulse of where the market's going. Are you seeing this sustainability and eco-friendly and anti-plastic? Are you seeing all that on the West Coast as well? Meaning that there's so many opportunities in here if we just focus on the right thing.
Well, it's happening out of the West Coast. We're in California, so of course it's happening out here.
I figured as much.
But there's still a lot more people that aren't into it. It's usually the people that are drivers are the humongous customer, companies that they have to do that. And our goal as our focus customer is medium to large customers. We don't need to sell Amazon. We're not going to compete with Amazon because we can't. They're buying direct from all the major suppliers. Exactly. That's not our customer. We sell a lot through Amazon through other people. That's different. But we'll never sell Amazon because we're just not in their model. So 100%. Again, it's the accounts we're calling on. We do get questions occasionally on that, but it's not as much as overall as we are in California, especially when the major corporations are getting pressure from everyone.
And a lot of times it's misguided too. I know you can relate to this as well. I mean, we've all dealt with those bigger companies where one guy in one department says, "Oh, we have to replace this. We've got to go." Okay, then you talk to another person in the same company. They go, "Oh, we can't do that." Well, that like you're talking about getting nowhere. I mean, and it's just, and again, that's in so many people, especially in that sustainable world. All of those terms mean something different. We try to teach our folks here too. Sustainable means something different than eco-friendly, which means something different than recyclable, means something different than biodegradable. It's not all just one big term. And again, underneath that is a huge opportunity, of course, to be able to explain and help and teach. But at the same time, there's also a lot of misunderstood or clients that have no, I need that. What? Sustainable? Yes. Or you mean recyclable? That too.
Yeah. Which one? Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
crazy. Where do you see? I was going to, as we land this plane, where do you see? And if there was anything, I'd like to really wrap this up with boy, if you could do anything, of course, now you got Kyle and Marcy involved in the business and that kind of thing. That's from a personal level. But what would you do if you had that magic wand to either, is it change the perception of packaging, give us an idea if you could do anything regarding the packaging space to just sort of change it in a good way?
Well,
Anything?
I think it's I guess I'm more of a smaller picture with my company as far as the magic wand, because I know this is what we are and our scope that we have.
No,
My
no, I get
influence
it.
is to be as positive as a company to both our customers and suppliers as possible. And hopefully, the things we do, other people will see that we do the right things. And so I try to keep it closer to home. I know I'm not going to change the world, but I do try to do the right things and have my people do the right things. And we are actively growing. We moved from 67,000 square feet to 156,000 square feet. So
That's legit.
that gets you pretty motivated.
Yeah.
So and
100%.
and
Yeah.
so and it's worked well. This new building's been awesome. So glad we're here now. But that's the thing we were. That's why we're hiring new reps. We're going to continue to do that because obviously the economy's a little soft. I mean, everybody we talk to is down a little bit at least. So you got to get more aggressive. And again, we're just keep on trying to do the right things with the new reps we have. Try to train them properly and get them out there doing the things that represent our companies the way we want to be represented.
Yeah. You said a couple times today, and I really want to circle back to this. I'd love to know where you got this from. I can tell that you're a very positive guy. I can tell that you're always looking towards the bright side of things, and I try to do the same. Is that just something that was that your dad or your grandfather or whatever? Because you said it a few times, and this isn't to put you on the spot. In a good way, it's to say it's very endearing. Where a lot of people are like, you know what? In this day and age, how many times, Mark, we go around, we can't even go to the shopping store without seeing this world and everything's terrible. You've said it a few times, and I really love that because that's what I try. Did you learn that? Is that just something that you just said, hey, we can look at both sides of the fence easy and go, yeah, life is terrible and economy's down, blah, blah. Or we can go, hey, you know what? Let's be positive. Let's be positively aggressive or whatever it is. I mean, I just was curious because it's a cool point.
Well, no, thank you. And I agree. And I do try to be completely an optimist, but I'm also a realistic optimist. I'm not, Pollyanna where everything's sweet and everything's going great.
No,
But so you
no,
got to see the world through what it is. But positive makes such a huge difference.
it does.
I'm a huge karma person. Treat people right, and it will come back to you. You might be nice to one person, and that person takes a crap on you. That doesn't matter. But somebody you're not even thinking about may come into your life and do something very positive for you. It all balances. So yes, my dad was a positive guy, but I think it's just as I've learned over the years and as I've grown, and I realize how fortunate I am that I try to take care of our employees and our customers and try to do the right thing. Is that why not be positive? Well, I mean, it's better for everybody.
That's why I wanted to bring that up because that's something that, it's the easiest thing to do is go the negative route. The easiest thing to do is, oh yeah, we're never going to get anywhere, blah, blah, blah. No, we could go the other direction and literally create the future that we want by being positive and focusing on the future and looking at things in a positive light. And that's really, I'm hoping that the young people kind of get hold of this. I mean, I know my kids think, Dad, just Mr. Optimistic. I'm not Pollyannish either. I know when something's messed up, and I know when but I'm also going to look at the positive side and say, what can we do to turn this around? What can we do to do something decent? Just to help somebody else. I mean, I just know, like you said, with karma, it comes back in spades.
Yeah, it's great. I try to be calm. I said I can't remember the last time I've ever yelled at anybody. But with the people around here, I'd be honest with them. If I see something, I don't try to belittle them. But if I need to
Right.
correct them, I just correct them, and it's just part of the job. I hope you
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
try to hurt people's feelings. Maybe you do sometimes, but that's never the goal. But
Yeah.
if you see something needs correcting, just correct it right away, move on, and then you don't need to bring it up again unless they do it again.
Right.
Let's just try to be positive. And And honestly, it pays. There's so many
Yeah.
little things in life that leads to success. That's one of them. But I still think the biggest one, especially for new people, is working hard. Nothing replaces working hard. You have to pay the price.
Yep. Yep. And again, I think I heard, and I know you can relate to this too, working hard doesn't mean it. Working smart and working hard are intertwined. It's not
Absolutely.
it's not just pushing on the pool door and saying I'm working really really hard. Okay, let's think this through. And you also said something, and I'll leave you with this. And there was a book I just read called Unoffendable, which I thought was really clever. And the fact that this guy, I used to get so caught up, and I know you face this in LA traffic and going here and there, and I would get so caught up. I'm late. I got to get to this appointment, and this guy's driving 25 in front of me. And this guy was like, you know what? You don't know. Maybe he just came from the doctor and had a bad doctor exam. And you don't know. Maybe his kids are driving him crazy. And it's just like, wow, that totally changed. And I love how you put that. And that really does sum you up too. And I'm not blowing smoke at you, that you haven't, yelled at anybody for I don't know how long, because that's just not in your DNA. And I think we can get a lot further with sugar than with, by pounding somebody in the head.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. Just doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Without yelling, you can make your point crystal clear. It doesn't
Very,
have to be yelled. It can be
very.
said very in a normal voice or typed in a normal email. That your point is crystal clear, and the person knows that you're not happy with whatever, or something needs to be corrected.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Mark, this is the thrill for me. I appreciate you. I will clean up this file. I will send you all the clips and things that we're using, because I think it would be great for you to have on your website and your new website, especially as you're going out. But I love doing things like this because it helps promote the industry. So I'm grateful
Awesome.
for you taking the
It was
time.
my pleasure, and thank you for the time too.
Yeah, we'll circle back afterwards. Thank you again.
Okay, very good. You're welcome.
All right, buddy. Hi, everyone. It's David Marinac. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to see more, here's another video that you can check out, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.